Today we're talking about the Justice League episode, The Savage Time. We have time travel, World War II, alternate realities. Could this episode fail? Well, we'll find out.
So where do we start?
So, you know me, you know I'm a big sci-fi fan. As you can see.
The stormtroopers came to our house. I was 8 years old.
And I love time travel, and I also love the 1940s and World War II. I love studying, and I love things that take place there. I love that sort of thing. And I also love, I've talked about this before, with Justice League, how they can take and tell these different sort of stories, and they aren't stuck to one timeline or one method, because they sort of deal in a lot of different elements, you know, and some of the fantasy of it.
Costumed fighters with magical powers.
So there's a lot of fun that we can have with this, and this episode, which is a three-parter and wraps up the three-part episode, wraps up the first season. There, got it, finally. And it's a good one. Spoiler alert, I like this episode. And it's got a lot of good things.
It's just like those old documentaries.
Not quite.
I feel like I've been hard on some of these episodes that are two-parters where it feels like they're just offering a lot of filler to just keep the episode going. This one's a three-parter, and it's jam-packed with good quality story.
This time, all bets are off.
But before we get into all that, I'm going to give you a 90-second rundown explaining the full run of the 3 episodes condensed into 90 seconds for sake of time, and see if I can do it before the Brainiac bomb blows up. Here we go. The Justice League, minus Batman returning from a mission in the Javelin, and then just Green Lantern's kind of towing along because they lost power, and he's saying, oh, I'm running out of power, but then Batman's going, oh, we're bringing it in, and then poof, flashlight, they land on Earth, and there's all these kind of Nazi-style flags hanging up everywhere, and they go, what's going on? This is an alternate reality or something, Martian Manhunter explains. So then they go and they see Batman, they're fighting the Axis and all that, and they go, Batman's explaining what they are, but now he's a different version of Batman. He goes, Vandal Savage is in charge, and what are you guys talking about? And so they, with his help, they go get into his secret hideout, and they go, oh, Vandal Savage has this time machine. Maybe he altered the past somehow. So they go back to World War II, another down the rabbit, and then they go there and they find out that he had froze Hitler, and he is now taken over, but he has this future tech that is able to do that, and Wonder Woman eventually teams up with Trevor, and they're fighting that, and they're fighting all these giant war wheel things, and Green Lantern loses power, and he joins up with the soldiers, and they're fighting. Superman and Hawkgirl are fighting alongside the U.S. soldiers, and so Wonder Woman and Trevor are trying to wait on Ernst to deliver this communication device that can tie that in there, and then the rest of the Justice League team up with the Blackhawks, and they're fighting, and they're trying to get back, and then they eventually infiltrate Vandal Savage, and he goes down in a rush of water. 3 episodes, man. And so he goes down in a rush of water, they stop him, they're able to, get back to their original time zone, and everything's set right in the world because Hitler was put back in charge, and then obviously he loses, and then and now everything's good, and then Wonder Woman goes to meet up with Trevor, who is Steve Trevor, who is in a nursing home now, and he calls her Angel, and it's all sweet and happy. Whew.
Too bad.
So this is a great cold open. I mean, they set up a lot in minimal scenes and cuts and words. Javelin's coming back. I don't know where they were. I don't know why they ran out of power. One line, Green Lantern's running out of power, and then flash. We're in this alternate future. Or not future, alternate present, I guess. And then they quickly figure out what's going on. They didn't spend the whole episode or half the episode trying to figure out. Martian Manhunters are like, oh, something happened, because it looks like the Axis is now in charge, but that's a little different. And then they meet up with this other version of Batman, which is, again, boom, boom, boom. We just get all of that out of the way in this cold open. He explains what's going on. I feel like something that's done poorly in a lot of time travel shows or movies is they really lean into this fish out of water thing, where it's like, oh, I'm in the future. What is this tech? I'm in the past. How did this happen?
Great jumping, Hera.
They milk that for all it's worth. And sometimes I'm like, I get it. You don't know what's going on. Just play along. Now, I've never time traveled. I've never been put into a situation where I'm like, what is this future world I'm dealing with? But it's overdone. It's just so like, can you just accept like, okay, something weird's going on. I need to play along, figure it out. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Disagree with me if you want, but that's always my take. And I feel like this episode does it well, where it's like, boom, 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 weird things happen. Okay, what's going on? How do we fix it? Let's get down to business, right? Pretty quick. What is pretty cool is this version of Batman with the armor and stuff. It's very cool. I would have liked to see more of him, and he's in it briefly.
Will you come with us?
No.
Which again, just leaves you wanting more. That's what these other episodes have been missing, which I like that. But it's great cold open, jumps right into it really quickly.
Welcome to Easy Company, soldier.
And then they go back to World War I, and we meet Steve Trevor, which is a nice little tie-in with Wonder Woman, and that's fun and that's interesting. And again, not a main plot point, but they cover a lot of ground with that, of their relationship and their attraction to one another. And they have that moment where they're waiting waiting for Ernst, and they have a nice little moment together. It was just like just enough of that. But seeing Justice League in World War II, I mean, I was on cloud nine. I was enjoying so much of just living in that world, and I think that speaks volumes to, well, one, my interest and my take is that like the best stories in the world sort of lose my interest if it's just not an interesting setting. I'm the kind of person, I'm not big on like just the slice of life kind of movies. I like genre pictures or time periods, you know, fantasy, sci-fi, that kind of thing.
Greetings from the future.
Then I'm a little more forgiving of the story. Clearly I knew what was going to happen, and clearly I knew how World War II was supposed to go, and they all knew that, and how they're going to get back to it. So it just felt like the challenge was, okay, we just got to stop this Vandal Savage army, and we're good to go.
This isn't going to be easy.
All of that was very interesting, and again, just taking the Justice League out of their element, putting them in World War II. Again, they didn't spend a lot of time with the World War II soldiers going, where are these mystical creatures coming from? What is happening?
You're sure I'm not dead?
But they just sort of accepted the reality and went, okay, you're fighting with us now, you know, and that was fun and entertaining. And we see the Blackhawks appear, which is just, that was a great surprise. I love the Blackhawks.
Vive la liberté! Are these guys for real?
Side note, I remembered as I was watching this that there was a story about Steven Spielberg was attached to direct a Blackhawks movie or produce it or something. I'll put a link up here. I talked about it a little while ago, kind of forgot about it. And then when I was watching this episode that I go, whatever happened with that? So I don't know. If you've heard any updates, let me know. I would love to see that. That would be very cool. But anyway, Blackhawks, very cool characters. And again, taking place in I have a Blackhawks comic somewhere. I don't know. And again, it was just like this other little element that they threw in there because they were in World War II, they were in the 40s, that they just sort of brought them in there, didn't spend a lot of time setting it up, just a couple of lines to like introduce them and establish who they were. And it was all good, it was all fun, it was great. So that's what made these three parts feel so in-depth, so filled, packed, which is how episodes should be. Whether you have one episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes, I would rather you pack so much in there that I have to watch it multiple times or really like absorb it than feel like, oh, I'm bored. Why is this 2 parts? Why couldn't we just condense this down? But I would rather just kind of skip over these things or, you know, layer them in there and give me some credit for absorbing it all. If you can't tell, this episode really was enjoyable. As a matter of fact, when I was watching it, and you can watch my full like first reaction watching the episode up here, just click on the card. I was so engrossed in watching it, I was just absorbing it all. I wasn't writing and doing my work of taking notes for this review, so I had to go back and watch it again. But it was just really enjoyable, and that's, you know, isn't that what it's all about? Just having an enjoyable watching experience of this. And here we are 20 years later, still good.
You're not going to believe what we've been through.
One of the other things that they did really well was that this is what I think they need to do more of in Justice League is splitting the team up. And we kind of dropped in on this story, dropped in this story, and it all made sense. You know, we had Green Lantern that ran out of his powers and was just fighting, you know, alongside the soldiers, which was cool. We had Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor doing their thing and trying to, you know, a little romantic subplot there going on with them, waiting for Ernst and all that, getting the communicator. Then we had Hawkgirl and Superman fighting along the soldiers and the Blackhawks incorporated in there. So it was like everybody got split up and we're all kind of doing different stuff. John Jones, you know, Martian Manhunter trying to find Vandal Savage. All of that was just, again, sort of helped create more layers. To me, it feels like this is what the show needs to be. And I trust the creators that this was the goal. But sometimes I feel like the episode just sort of missed the mark in that sense. And it's like either we just focus on one character and the rest are kind of gone, or side characters in that episode, or we split them up for no good reason and they're not utilizing their powers or the specificness of the characters, or they're all together and it's just one big team versus another big threat. And this, I thought, split them up for good reason, and it created all these interesting stories that were kind of split up throughout there.
All this from one laptop computer?
And yes, it was a lot of fighting, but it was entertaining. It was interesting. And maybe I'm going back on some of my words that, like, yeah, sometimes I don't like just the good guys versus the bad guys and just a punching battle. But I think with the style and kind of aesthetics of the World War II, kind of made it interesting, kind of made it more enjoyable than just like big monster and the good guys, you know?
Let's hit him and hit him hard.
And I think also along those lines, Vandal Savage is a really great villain. And I always like when he appears in comics and stories is that this immortal being who can exist in all these different time periods and have different iterations and fights different heroes, and not a hand-to-hand combat guy, but a thinker and got, you know, the mastermind behind all of this. And so in this story, that's a great threat, you know? We take the Nazis away from the Hitler and put them in the hands of Vandal Savage, and we've got an interesting story and a really good foe, and I like that. An adversary worthy of the Justice League. That's what I'm trying to get to, is that's what the show has been lacking, and this episode, group of episodes really delivers on.
Well, it's a long story.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, maybe no surprise to you, but this episode ranks at my number 2 slot of my favorite episodes so far. It does fall just below Legends, and this one was a little tricky. Legends brought me so much joy to watch. I think in the spirit of nostalgia and just where I'm at in my life, it just felt like just such a, it was like a warm hug, a cozy blanket to just sit back and enjoy watching that episode. Wasn't a deep story, wasn't like, it was very comforting to watch that. Whereas this episode was just pure excitement.
Incredible.
Not really. It happens every day.
I could probably flip those either or to 1 or 2 back and forth, but from where I'm at right now in my headspace of season 1, this falls at the number 2 spot, which is no knock on you know, but it's like up against nostalgia. Nostalgia's just gonna win out.
Any other questions?
I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy the Savage time as much as I did? And what did you think of that? And if you didn't get a chance yet and want to see the episode that beat it out, take a look at my review of Legends.